In this video, we're going to discuss three foods, or rather three food groups that you should probably avoid if you're struggling with chronic back pain. And the last one is actually quite surprising. It took me a bit surprise. Before we get to that, do myself and yourself a favor and subscribe to this channel, because you're going to find a lot of content on back pain that you won't find anywhere else. The reason for this is because I base a lot of my approaches on my own personal experience. I struggled with chronic back pain for more than 10 years. None of the doctors, none of the experts could do anything to help me. I had to really learn a lot of the things the hard way through experience and through a lot of pain. But the good news here is that I've been completely back pain free for 2 years now, and I know the way out. I can show it to you, so subscribe to this channel and let's get started. The first food group that you should definitely avoid, even if you don't have chronic back pain, funny enough, but especially if you struggle with back pain, is processed foods and junk food. All of these like trans fats and processed sugars and all of these like preservatives and chemicals and toxins and all of these like things that are added to our food supply, they're essentially one step removed from poison. Whenever we eat them, whenever we ingest them, our body really struggles with not just digesting them, but then a lot of these like free radicals and toxins get released from them, and our body has an extra homework to do. It has to expend even more energy on trying to get rid of all of these unwanted substances from the body, which are really dangerous. They are poisonous if the body keeps them around. So it has to do extra work to get rid of them. And of course, this results in increased inflammation in the body, which, as you probably may know, and as I talk about in other videos, is going to result in increased chronic back pain and increased pain from other chronic conditions. Another food group that you probably should experiment with avoiding at the very least, and you're probably going to arrive at the same conclusion that I did, that it's really a good idea to eliminate it or really cut it as much as you can, is carbohydrates. Now, there might be some variety depending from person to person here. Some people tolerate carbs a little bit better, it seems, but a lot of people don't even know that they're kind of have like a lot of their indigestion and chronic issues are caused by increased or unnatural rather intakes of carbohydrates. We're probably not evolved to eat so many carbs as a lot of us eat today. Historically, like evolutionarily speaking, human beings have eaten a lot of vegetables, sure, and fruit probably, but also a lot of meat, a lot of eggs, a lot of nuts and seeds. So all of these like foods should comprise your diet. And even though fruits and to some extent vegetables, they are primarily carbs, they're not really rich in them. It's really difficult to eat like 500 grams of carbs just by fruit alone or by vegetable alone. There usually should be like additions to the main meal, which usually should be some form of meat probably. That's how humans are built, that's how we're designed, and that's probably the best way to eat for pretty much everything, but especially if you struggle with chronic pain. On the other hand, if you eat a diet that's rich in carbohydrates, this usually results also in increased inflammation levels. And if you avoid carbohydrates, essentially you're not going to be in such inflamed state. Your body is not going to have such high levels of inflammation, which is actually always good for chronic back pain. The main culprits here are obviously like candy, or, cookies, cake, all of the good stuff, that we love, but also like a lot of the doughy stuff like pizza, pasta. Like, this is obviously the best food category. I'm not saying you should never eat that. In fact, I frequently indulge in this, but especially if you're trying to reduce the permanent levels of pain that you're feeling, at least experiment and see how you're doing when you release, or ideally when you cut off these foods completely. I promise you that you're going to probably find beneficial results here. And believe it or not, even wheat and wheat products can also be pretty damaging in this regard, especially if you have some intolerances here. Probably the safest choice here might be starchy foods like maybe rice, potatoes, even though evolutionarily speaking, that's probably something that humans haven't really eaten for a long time. They're not as dangerous probably as the other foods, but if you overeat them, you're probably going to notice a spike in inflammation, which is also going to result in increased back pain. And the final food group, and honestly, like, this probably is not a concern for a lot of people, but for some, this is like the main culprit, the main reason why they feel chronic pain and sometimes even chronic back pain, is actually vegetables. And this may shock a lot of people. It was also surprising to me when I first kind of discovered it. But you may discover that some vegetables are really difficult for you to digest. This results in chronic symptoms, and sometimes this can also even be chronic back pain. Now, a huge caveat here, again, like this is probably not going to be the case for a lot of people suffering from chronic back pain, but it's something that's really worth experimenting and looking into. You may discover that, for example, eating a cucumber, this one can frequently be like a major culprit, or maybe broccoli, or maybe tomatoes and peppers, or some nightshade vegetables for other people. They can actually cause you a lot of digestion problems. And digestion and, or rather like indigestion and problems of that nature are frequently tied together with other chronic issues, specifically chronic back pain in some instances. So experiment with this, reduce some of these vegetables if you have a suspicion they may be causing you like digestion problems, which results in, again, like chronic back pain. And maybe you're gonna find that if you eliminate some vegetables, your chronic back pain levels get reduced. We talked about the foods that you should avoid for chronic back pain. If you want to learn exactly what to eat and what are the foods you should aim towards, the next video that's going to appear above me is going to go into a lot of detail about that. I will see you there. And until next time, be brave.